screen shortly. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Fabulous. So thank you so much for joining us. Today's session is to provide you with an overview and an update of your role as judges in the 2023 Moreton Bay Business and Innovation Awards. This is a pre-information session and hopefully we'll answer all your questions. We'll take an opportunity to provide an overview of the awards program. We will dive into Awards Force. Luke will provide an overview in respect to that. And then we'll have opportunities for any questions that you may have. But we are a small group, so please feel free to pipe in with anything that potentially may not be clear. Just a quick overview. Moreton Bay, over 2,000 square kilometres, roughly twice the size of Brisbane, LGA geographically, and on a huge growth trajectory. Roughly 500,000 people call the Moreton Bay region home today, and that's set to increase to close to 700,000 in the next 20 years. We have a very proactive council, Moreton Bay Regional Council, released the region's economic development strategy at the back end of 2020, early 21, and identified 4 key industry sectors that will underpin the growth of the region over the coming decades. And those sectors include innovation, entrepreneurship, and knowledge, food and agribusiness, advanced manufacturing, and tourism, sports and events. And as you'll know, a lot of our categories seek to obviously underpin and ensure that we are seeking to celebrate and seeking to grow these particular sectors and areas. We're the fifth largest or fifth fastest growing region in Australia, and the 3rd largest local government, not in SEQ, not in Queensland, but in Australia. So an area of significant influence and a region that is seeking to continue to grow its visibility and its awareness, particularly within the business community. About the awards. The awards have 3 key objectives. Firstly, we are seeking to provide a platform that enables local businesses and local business individuals in the Moreton Bay region to seek acknowledgement and to celebrate their contributions to the business community. We are seeking to profile the region's visibility as a centre of innovation of enterprise. No longer is the region just an area that sits between Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast, but an area of influence, an area of innovation and entrepreneurship. And finally, the awards program provides a really great platform to enable businesses and business individuals pathways towards national and international award programs. So we see our program as that initial stepping stone, a really soft landing pad for local businesses to potentially dip their toes into the business awards water and hopefully take steps to celebrate their successes in regional, state and international and national programs. The business awards are delivered by Moreton Bay Region Industry and Tourism, otherwise known as MBRET. We are Moreton Bay Regional Council's official economic development partner. We deliver a number of programs. Most of you potentially will know me mostly from the tourism side, but we do have a very focused program on innovation and entrepreneurship, and we also work very strategically in the community space. This awards program is delivered in partnership with our strategic partner, Moreton Bay Regional Council, but is also being delivered with the support of a number of corporate sponsors that make the program possible. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, the categories seek to align with Council's key regional priorities and strategies, specifically the Regional Economic Development Strategy. There are 15 categories. There's an award for the Business of the Year. That is an award. That is a category that nominees cannot nominate. You automatically are nominated by your final score in each of the categories. It's only for those business categories, not those individual categories. And there's those 3 individual categories: businesswoman, employee, and entrepreneur. I want to acknowledge, I obviously mentioned our corporate sponsors, but I want to acknowledge our corporate sponsors who make the awards program possible. And without their support, we certainly wouldn't be able to deliver what we do. So firstly, Moreton Bay Regional Council, our strategic partner, Bishop Outdoor Advertising, Epic Assist, North Harbour, SRJ Walker Wayland, RDA, Regional Development Australia, Moreton Bay, Solar Bollard Lighting, Think to Be Group, UniSC, and Westpac. About our judges, this slide provides you a little bit of an overview in terms of who you are and where you're coming from. The column graph in the top left-hand corner just shows you where the majority of the expressions of interest came from for a number of the categories. You obviously see that innovation, entrepreneur, businesswoman, really oversubscribed categories. You know, all our judges that put their hand up and wanted to be part of the program and wanted to be part of the judging panel, you know, those categories were highly oversubscribed. So just wanting to give you sort of context as to potentially why you were given or awarded a particular category and not another. We have a really good sector representation. This is really important to us as the administrators of this awards program, to ensure that we have strong and diverse representations from a variety of different sectors. We're predominantly got judges from the private sector, but we've got good representation from education, government, both local, state and federal, industry associations and not-for-profits. Just to give you a feel for where our judges coming from, 60% of you are from outside of the region and 40% are from inside the region. We have done this strategically. We know, you know, the business community here in Moreton Bay is close and intimate, and we're always looking to ensure that we're alleviating as many conflicts of interest as possible. And finally, just to give you a feel for, we have 48 judges this year in comparison to the 44 that we recruited last year. We've increased the judging cohort by 4 and largely to seek to reduce the workload on our judges. Our judges last year, you know, have sort of said that, you know, where they were appointed to 2, 3 or more categories, the workload was too much. So majority, roughly 60% of our judging cohort this year have only been appointed to one category, with the remainder at 2 and 3 at the most. You have obviously been selected because you have demonstrated expertise and industry knowledge specific to the categories that you've been appointed to. So we're incredibly grateful for the expertise that you bring. The caliber of the awards program really rests on your knowledge and your track record, and we're incredibly grateful for the expertise and the support that you are providing us with. Your roles and responsibilities. You would have each read and seen this this full judge information document on executing an expressions of interest. But just a quick overview. We're seeking to ensure that we're all working together to maintain and grow the credibility of this awards program. We're wanting to ensure that we're promoting the awards program to industry, and you're hopefully taking the opportunity to also profile your involvement in the awards program if appropriate in your individual daytime roles. Your role will be to assess and evaluate each category to the best of your ability. And we're wanting to ensure that you're doing that in the spirit of the program. You're doing it fairly and independently without bias and without prejudice, in accordance with the set criteria, and we'll provide a little bit more information about that, and on its merit and information. So there will be instances where you know the businesses and you may have additional information. You are asked to only evaluate the nominations based on the information that the nominee has provided in their nomination. We ask that you provide constructive written feedback. Now, you can do that on a per question basis or an overall nomination basis. we have found this incredibly beneficial to our nominees, particularly if they have missed out or have reached the finalist stages, really wanting to sort of understand and provide them with the opportunity to improve and provide them with feedback. And in some instances, we have 4 categories, that are subject to an interview. That's Entrepreneur of the Year, Businesswoman of the Year, Employer of the Year, and the Innovation Excellence Award. If you are appointed to any of those 4 categories, you will be invited to an interview with the finalists. And there may be a need for further discussion and moderation, but it's something that hasn't occurred previously, with each judge assessing nominations individually. Criteria. So there are key questions that are outlined for each category. These are set, and when you jump into the awards force program, which the nominees use to nominate and you will use to judge, you will see a guide in terms of how to be assessing the questions and what to be thinking about. Nominees also receive the same information, so they know what they should be including in their responses to the questions. And nominations can only be assessed, as I mentioned, on the content in each of the nominations. External links can be provided, but there's certainly no obligation for you to undertake further due diligence on the nomination and to qualify any of the statements. Nominees are encouraged to add further documents that may support their answers, but certainly answers should not be contained in the attached documents. So if there are attached documents or collateral, it's only for you to peruse and to satisfy yourself that the nominee has provided evidence to their statements. Confidentiality and conflict of interest. You would have all signed a confidentiality agreement. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. We have a duty of care and an obligation to ensure that all nominees are protected and that no information that is provided in their nominations is ever released publicly. So just a very gentle reminder of your duties not to divulge or to utilise any information that will be contained in the submissions. You're requested to not discuss the submissions with any other party or any details about the nominations, and that all information provided in each nomination, except for what is obviously public knowledge, means confidential information. Conflict of interest, we will be sending you conflict of interest declaration forms upon the nomination process closing, and that closes next Friday, the 17th of March. Upon nominations closing, you will receive a list of nominees per category. You won't receive any further information beyond the nominee name, their ABN and their address. And it's at that point in time that we ask you to review the list per category and to declare if you have any conflicts of interest. So any conflicts of interest can be actual, perceived, or potential conflicts of interest. And if you're in doubt, please reach out. Please reach out to Luke and have a conversation. There are some judges that are overly cautious, and we'll sort of say, look, we don't see that as a conflict, and we'll sort of work to document that accordingly. But always side with air of caution. Judges and as a judge, you're not permitted to prepare, write, or aid a nominee, and I'm sure you haven't done that. But it's really important to keep the nominees at arm's length. And as I mentioned, once you receive the list of nominees who have submitted per category, it's at that point in time now we ask you to complete that conflict of interest declaration. Key dates. So we have a relatively long nomination period as to previous years. Normally, the nomination period opens roughly March, April. Is that right, Luke? And and runs for roughly 10 to 12 weeks. This year, the program has changed. So nominations opened on the night of our last Gala Awards, which was on Friday, the 21st of October last year. So they've been open for quite some time. As the administrators, we didn't really start pushing the awards until the start of this year, gave the business community an opportunity to catch their breath following the last awards program. Back in February, you would have executed your NDA, as I mentioned, and today we're obviously in the judge briefing. Nominations formally close next Friday, the 17th of March, and the week after, week commencing the 20th, we hope to share those nominee lists and to provide you with that conflict of interest declaration. You will then have 3.5 weeks to assess your nominations, and I'll shortly pass over to Luke to talk through what that looks like using the awards platform Awards Force. Finalists will then be announced at the beginning of May with finalist interviews for those 4 categories that I mentioned, and the Gala Awards on the 7th of July. Please put that date in your diary. More information will be coming, but as the judging panel, we always love to have you in the room to help celebrate the business community's wins and to obviously acknowledge the significant contribution that you make to the awards program. Over to you, Luke.
Thanks, sorry. Excuse me, everyone. You can go to the next slide, Ori. So in 2021, we made the innovative decision to move our nomination and judging process online. Those of you who were a judge last year or the year before will be familiar with Award Force. It just changed everything from a manual, very manual editable PDF process to an online process whereby nominees and judges can start either their submission or judging a category, log off when if they need to, and then jump back on and continue on with the process. So if you were a judge last year or in 2021, your access will be the same. You'll be able to access your account, and once the nomination period closes and we finalize all the nominees, you will see these nominations pop up on your list that you can access. If you don't have a access, that's fine. We will create a generic password and shoot you the details with your email that you've provided to Ori, and you'll be able to jump on and yeah, get started on that one. Thanks, Ori. So when you first log in, you will be required to complete this confidentiality agreement before you can assess any of the categories. And there's plenty of tips here for judges to help you through the judging process. But once again, I think as I already mentioned, if you have any questions, please just come directly to any contact you have, whether it be myself or Renee as well. We can help you out if you have any additional questions. And so what you're going to see when you open, this will be an example of the dashboard. If you're judging multiple categories, you'll be able to sort the categories at the top, and then you'll see all the nominee submissions down the bottom there. And then you'll click on and open a submission. And this is what you'll see. You'll see the category, the name of the entrant, and the answers they've started providing. So it starts with the key information about the business or the nominee, and then we move through the criteria questions. So you can select the previous or next button, and to move back and forth through the submission. And when you move next, thanks, sorry, this is an example of how the questions and the answers will be displayed for you. There is also key things to consider when judging. the submission, and we have this the same. It's the same for the nominees. There's key things to consider when they're answering the questions as well. There is a word limit on each of these answers, so you won't be required to wade through thousands of words. There is a strict word limit depending on the weight of the question. And let's say we have 5 or 6 questions per answer. All of the scoring is out of 10. However, this has been scaled so that it is a final score out of 100. So each question is weighted differently, but you don't need to worry about that. You can just score out of 10 for each question. As Ori mentioned, we do really encourage you to leave comments for each answer. Our nominees do find it extremely valuable. If we don't provide it automatically to them, they generally always request this feedback, so they do find it valuable. And we have many nominees who maybe nominated last year or were a finalist and have requested feedback so they can improve on their submissions from previous years. So it's not compulsory to put a comment in this section, but if you do have time, we really encourage it. It really is helpful. And we do promote the pathway from these awards to other national and international awards. So the feedback you provide them for this category, for these submissions, can really help them in other awards programs as well. Sorry, thanks, Ori. When you hit the attachment section of the submission and you open the attachment, it will automatically download. That's just part of the system. So it will be downloaded to wherever you have your downloads automatically, probably your downloads folder on your computer. We do ask that you please, once you're finished reviewing the submission and you've submitted your answers, please delete all these documents. But if you're not aware, if you open it, you might not be aware that, hey, that's going to automatically download through your computer. So just be aware of that. And at the end, we do ask if you can leave an overall comment on the submission. It is valuable, and our nominees do, or generally they read these, and they do find great benefit in helping them improve their submissions for future years. And I think that's pretty straightforward. I mean, is anyone here not aware or has no experience in Award Force? Excellent. Okay, you should find it pretty straightforward. It's not, there's no major changes to the system. So it's pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions along this process at all, please reach out and I'll do my best to answer. As well as that, if there's any, we have had some in the past, we have some glitches or bugs that pop up. And so if there's something that stands out and you think, oh, that doesn't look quite right, or this answer isn't displaying, please reach out, and often it'll be, I haven't checked a box or something. So we'll make sure that's all tested and hopefully debugged before it gets to you. But if for some reason there is an issue, and if it is something that is system error, we'll have to reach out to Award Force so they can correct that as soon as possible. Great.
Thank you, Luke. Are there any questions?
All right, Paul here.
Hello, Paul.
Can you just give me the date for the awards, the gala dinner again, please? Is that 7th or 8th July?
The 7th of July, Friday the 7th of July. Yes, yeah, Friday night. And more details will be sent through by the team in respect to that. But we love to have all our judges present. It's an opportunity for the business community to increase their network, and you certainly form part of that network. We have strategically sought to ensure that we have a very good cross section of judges from a number of areas of expertise, as well as from across the region. Again, strategically done so to enable our nominees to increase their visibility and increase their network. As Luke mentioned, the Awards Force program is very intuitive, but obviously if there are any questions relating to Awards Force or anything at all for that matter, please reach out to Luke Richesteers. Luke will be your key contact from Friday onwards, and his details are there on the screen, and I'll be sharing a copy of this PowerPoint presentation with you after today's briefing.
Right.
Thank you.
One question, in terms of the next steps, we don't have to do anything, right? The conflict of interest thing, the login to Awards Force would just be provided. right?
That's correct. So the next point of contact will be from us week commencing the 20th with a list of the nominees for each of the categories that you've been appointed to. At that point in time, you'll review that list and declare any conflicts of interest if there are any. Once that is returned to us, a awards force account will be created for you if you don't already have one, and you will be provided with access to all the nominees for that category. Say, for example, there are 20 nominees in your category and you have 2 or 1 conflicts of interest. You continue to judge that category, but we just turn off those 2 nominees that you have a conflict of interest with. The final score is based on an average weighted score, and there are 5 judges per category that have been appointed.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's 10:29. I know that you are very busy people. Thank you so much again for your support. We're incredibly grateful and delighted to have recruited you onto our panel. Thank you so much, and wishing you a lovely Wednesday ahead.
Thanks, Ori. Thanks for your work. And
Thanks, team.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
International Women's Day. Go for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, happy
See ya.
International Women's Day. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
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 Thank you.